Good morning, everybody, and thank you for watching the United Kingdom Speedrunner Gathering, a two-day speedrunning marathon, coming to you live from Glasgow, Scotland. My name is Skenme, you can call me Paul, and I'll be taking you through the next couple of runs this fine morning here in Glasgow. And don't forget, we are raising money to support Crisis, a charity supporting people out of homelessness for good. I would love to pass you over now to Kitcot, making their UKSG debut with The Legend of Zelda, Skyward Sword. Kit, take it away.
Thank you, Skenme. I will say in the camera, my eyes do look dead. I did actually get some sleep last night, just for the record. Yeah, but no. Good morning, everyone. If you're watching this from the European part of the world, hope you guys are doing well. My name is Kitcot, and I'll be playing The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. It's a fairly solid Zelda game. There aren't many out of bounds, not many glitches, with one exception. And that one exception is why this game is 1 hour, 20 minutes, and not 6 hours long. So we'll be doing that one exception over and over again. And yeah, it's going to be a good run. So normally for this, there's normally a tradition that we'll be doing a file name incentive. I forgot to set that, so instead what I did is I asked one of my friends, what should the file name be, and I promise it's nothing rude. I can spell. It might seem like a really instant word, bit of an inside joke here. If you know, you know. Shout out to Crystal on that one. And yeah, I believe we're ready to start. Yeah, so I'll just count down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, let's get this started. So, first two things. Number one, we are skipping cutscenes. We are playing this game in Hero Mode, which is kind of like the new game plus. There's a lot of really good things about Hero Mode, like this. Amongst others, which we'll get into later, and we are actually also playing on the Japanese version of the game, mostly because the text is slightly faster. This is all possible in the English version, but yeah, it's just kind of how it goes, you know? So first things first here on Skyloft, I'm going to be doing the longer... Normally in the game, we normally do like one character file names because the text scrolls. So the 8 character file names thrown off a little bit. But yeah, so first of all, we're just going to talk to Fledge here. Now, talking to Fledge was absolutely not required to beat the game. However, towards the start of the game, we want to do a bunch of like setup stuff for this, to set up certain scene flags later on. So that's essentially why we'd be talking to some random people and doing seemingly useless things, right? So here, as you can see, Japanese text is scrolling relatively quickly. It's not instant compared to other Zelda games, but yeah, it is fairly quick. Especially if you played on the English text, you will probably notice how much quicker it is. So, you know, just cancel this, and we make our way over to the kind of like the first thing here. Nice, that jump is harder than it looks. So effectively, again, back on the theme of doing things that are not at all required to beat the game, this is kind of one of those things. We're kind of saving Zelda's cat here, right? And this is not, again, required to beat the game, but again, this sets a very important scene flag that we'll be using later on. So that's pretty cool. So we will pick up the cat, not give in to the temptation to throw it into the abyss, and we'll just, you know, carry it over here, do this little jump, and boom, we save the cat. Woo. Yay. 2 minutes in. So the game's been looking fairly normal right now. You know, fairly solid Zelda game. So let's change that, shall we? Let's do a few funky stuff. So normally the game wants us to go ahead and meet Zelda. We will eventually, but just before that, we're going to go ahead and kill ourselves. The reason being is because that's how we get into the main game-breaking glitch of this game. So, you know, just gonna jump off this appropriately named killing post here. So now another advantage of Hero Mode is you do double damage. So instead of just 6 hops here, it's just 3 nice hops. And then we are good. So, one last jump. We did it. Death percent in 250. Let's go. Right. So, game over. Oh no. So then I'm going to continue and reset to the console. Now, continuing, the game will respawn Link, but because I reset, the game goes back to the title screen. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the biggest glitch in this game, back in time, the ability to play on the title screen. Other Zelda games have this, like Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. It is noticeably important in Skyward Sword because we have access to bird statues and the file select menu, right? And essentially, nice, I got stuck there. And those two things are very important, right? Because we can, well, first of all, here, there's a bird statue right over there. And what I'm going to use, I'm going to kind of use that bird statue to kind of do what's known as a back-in-time save. So I'm going to select this file here. Be careful not to start it. And then just save the game. So what that will do is that will save... it'll save file 1 onto the back-in-time map of Skyloft, and that's quite handy because the back-in-time map of Skyloft, it looks quite different from regular Skyloft, and there's a few other things, such as this goddess statue being open. So we're just going to go ahead and go right in here, and just kind of starting my file there, just a little bit of, what's it called, just like small loading optimizations. So now we have the goddess sword, because that's just chilling here, you know, we just got that. And yeah, so we're gonna. So you see him back in time saving, and now I'm gonna kind of do an example of what's known as a iteration of reverse bit magic. Why it's called that, I'm not gonna get into. It's very, very complicated. But basically, this is the big thing when it comes to what's it called? When it comes to Skyward Sword. It's the ability to like get scene flags from back in time and put them onto your files, because what that will do is that will make quite a bunch of funky stuff happen. This first iteration is fairly straightforward. We upon getting the goddess sword, Fi, who is around somehow, gave us the emerald tablet, and so what we're going to do is we're going to load the emerald tablet in back in time, and as that happens we're going to start our file, and what that will do is that will set the emerald tablet onto file 1, right? And so then file 1 will have the emerald tablet, and so we don't have to go pick it up later. So start the file at a very specific point. We won't have the goddess sword because we did have to start at a very specific point. Because of how back in time works. It only puts the scene flag onto your file if you start at a very specific point, as the scene flag is basically being loaded in pretty much. So because we did the back in time save, we are back here. And yeah, we can just kind of walk in here, and hey, here's the goddess sword. Again, this didn't save, so we have to get this again. So yeah, that is back in time, kind of in a nutshell. I hope that you guys aren't horrifically confused right now. If you are, then oh boy, we've got a long way to go, because we're gonna be doing that quite a few more times over the next hour and a bit. But in any case, we're just going to go ahead and go through these cutscenes backwards. And then we're going to open up this, because what that will do is that will kind of tell, like, we're essentially telling the game that we have the emerald tablet. So we're opening this, and then it will rise, and then we'll see that we have the emerald tablet. The game will know that we have this, and then Farron will be loaded. There's still a few more things on Skyloft we have to do, most notably saving our bird. So we are going to be going ahead and doing that. But yeah. Now we finally meet Zelda, and now we're going to kind of do a little bit more kind of normal, back to normal gameplay, where we're just kind of doing a bunch of movements. I think now would be a good time to discuss like the movement of this game. If you're familiar with any of like the previous Zelda games, like Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, you'll know that you know, rolling is a pretty big thing, right? And in this game, rolling is still something we want to do, although we do have this nice nifty thing called a stamina wheel, where we can now run. And so running is obviously pretty much something we want to do over walking. We also want to try and roll as much as possible, because rolling over running saves 1 frame per roll. However, rolling depletes the stamina meter more. So we have to kind of... It's a bit of a balance between... stamina management when rolling and running, and that's a big art of the movement in this game, which is pretty cool. So again, now we're just kind of trudging through Skyloft. Again, back to the theme of just doing stuff randomly. We're going to enter into this door. This is probably one of the most important doors of the game. We're going to enter into it. Long dramatic pause. And then we're going to leave. Thank you. So yeah, again, it's seemingly completely useless, but again, useful scene flag set on this file, which when we do back in time again later, will be very, very handy. So right now, we're essentially just going to go through again, just going through some normal Skyloft stuff here, some casual strats here. Gonna basically go ahead and save our Loftwing. So I think right now would be a good time for any donations or anything if you want to read anything.
Oh, I can absolutely talk for England. Thank you very much. Just to remind everybody, we are raising money to support Crisis, and so far this event we have raised $3,080 for Crisis, a charity supporting people out of homelessness for good. They achieve this through education, training, and support with housing, employment, and health. 90% of all donations go towards supporting Crisis, and 10% come towards UKSG's future events to ensure that we can continue to put on incredible events like UKSG Green.
Cool, yeah, thank you. So there I did just take a bit of damage there just as I went through the cave. And believe it or not, we're going to be doing back in time very shortly. Not as shortly as you'd think, but in general in this game, it's quite useful to be as low health as possible, so when you do want to die, you don't take a million years doing so. So here's Zelda. You know, if you're familiar with the story, basically what happens is, you know, it's the day of the wing ceremony, but the bird, our bird gets locked up by Groose and the gang, so then we have to kind of go find our bird ourselves. But we're speedrunners, we already know where the bird is. So just before we do that, we're going to go ahead and save and quit. Reason being, currently file 1 has a bunch of good properties that we want to kind of keep. So we're going to copy file 1 to file 3 here. And so the useful properties here that we're going to be using will be used for later. So we're going to go ahead and start file 1 again. And now finally we are going to go ahead and go back down here, and then lo and behold, this is where our Loftwing will be. And so then we just kind of have to break our Loftwing out, and then we can basically we can fly, which is pretty cool if I do say so myself. Okay, and once again, hero mode, just skipping the cutscene right there. And then so now we have the ability to fly, which is pretty cool. But we are going to be into the tutorial of the Loftwing, like the Loftwing tutorial. So the game assumes that we're dumb. We don't know how to use the bird, so the game's just going to teach us, right? The game must think we're pretty stupid, because this won't be the last time we'll be in this Loftwing tutorial here. But you can see there is the Emerald Tablet there. We can't quite reach it. And we could dive to it if we had the diving ability, which we won't get until later. So we're going to do a few more stuff on Skyward just to get the dive here. And so I think as I'm just going through this, a good thing I can probably talk about is a trick coming up called the Wing Ceremony cutscene skip. So after this, there'll be a cutscene of the Wing Ceremony that is going to take place. Before that is a save prompt, and in between save prompts and cutscenes, you have about 2 frames where you can make an input, and we're going to try and sight hop out of this cutscene. It is pretty difficult because there's no visual or audio cue, but I'll try and do it. If I miss it, it'll be about 40 seconds or so, time loss. Nice, got it, let's go. Right, so, nice. So that saves a bit of time, because now we can die quite conveniently. Link's gonna have a rough morning, I will say. So yeah, so now we're going to go ahead and save and reset. I will be I should be using the console to reset from now on. So yeah, first of all I use like the home menu, but again there's a soft reset on the console that you can just use there. So this next one is a pretty important back in time. It's probably the scariest one. If I fail this, then oops, the run is over, but I should be fine. So we're going to go ahead and do some funky file shenanigans. We're going to select file 2, come back out, and then save it a burst dash in a very specific way. And what that will do is that will set... it'll file dupe file 3 to file 2. It might look like nothing's changed, but as I open file 2, things will start to get weird. And we're going to use this now newly duped file, and we're going to essentially load into it into the sky. And that will kind of give us the diving ability. As you see, the file name has changed promptly. So then I'm going to jump off here, start the file, and then call Loftwing, and then start the file. And then, if I did that correctly, we should be into the general sky, and we won't be confined to the tutorial anymore. We will be in the sky. Although again, we still don't have. Okay, we have the diving ability now, I'm pretty sure, but we don't have the bird because file 3. Remember, we didn't save the bird, so we're going to have to go back and do that. So yeah, so now we're just gonna kind of the best way of kind of doing this is by dying by this Gwei here, the bird that's kind of flapping around with the red rupee. This guy can be a little finicky and RNG, so it's like that. My guy, you could not have had a worse turning cycle if you tried. So yeah, this is quite a easy way of losing time here. Yeah, he's not being kind to me this morning. Giving me some quite bad. Dude, run into me, thank you. Yeah. So yeah, I've never seen. I'm baffled by that turning cycle. He just like was going one way and then just did a 180. What the hell? But yeah, no, I've never seen that. But anyway, again, that guy can be quite annoying. But you know, anyway, we trudge forward.
I believe what we're seeing there is marathon luck.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, no. So now we're dead. Now we're back on Skyloft. Woo. So now we're gonna save our Loftwing, and now we'll have the Loftwing on this file, which is pretty important because you know it's a game in the sky, and having the ability to fly is never a bad thing. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and once again skip this cutscene, and now we're actually going to dive back into the Farron region because we're gonna finally leave Skyloft about 15 minutes in, and yeah. So, but once again, we will be confined to the tutorial, but yeah, no worries, so we're just going to flap a few times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, dive off the Loftwing, and then just kind of, then we just kind of smooth sailing, although this isn't Wind Waker, so we're not really sailing, but you know what I mean. Yeah, so just dive in. Diving will, when we go into back in time, into like the, yeah, when we go into back in time, when we load into the sky, it will be also in the tutorial. And so we will be diving into this Farron Vale quite a lot because we'll do a lot of back in times that will be in the Farron region, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So you know, about 15 minutes in, and we're just entering the surface. And so after this kind of long-ish, a few seconds cutscene, we will then be into the Farron region, and then we'll be doing probably the longest, and I would say probably the most confusing iteration of Back in Time. Just afterwards. But if you have a quick donation, then feel free to read one right now.
No donations, but I do want to remind people that ESA are one of our big supporters here, so we'd like to thank ESA for supporting this marathon. Besides providing us with their channel for streaming, hello to everybody on twitch.tv/ESA Marathon. They're also sharing gear and technical assistance with us. ESA Summer 2023 is right around the corner on the 22nd to the 29th of July. So tune in on twitch.tv/ESA Marathon on those days to check it out.
Cool, thank you. So yeah, dead. Once again, you'll be seeing this game over quite a lot of times. So continue and reset, and then we'll be back in time, and then we'll be. So yeah, everyone hold on to your seats because things are about to get quite funky. So copy file 3 to file 1. File 1 we don't need it anymore, so we'll just copy it over from file 3. Then we're going to bonk into this tree with file 3 right here. Then I'm going to select file 2. Be very careful here. Just tap the plus button. There we go. I tap it for 1 frame because if I held it for longer, the game would crash. Copy file 2 to file 3 because we already copied file 3 earlier, so we don't need a file 3 in its place anymore. Select file 1 because remember it was file 3, and because we bonked into the tree with file 3, the gate's now open, which is pretty cool. Select this statue here with file 1 and bit save file 3. We want to have these corners onto file 3. Then select file 1 again to make sure these gates are open, and then we're going to be hopping off Skyloft to then go into Farron. Everyone confused yet? Well, it's only the beginning, so, yeah. Alright, so just a few flaps here, and then we'll be diving off our Loftwing, and then we'll be, again, because we're only confined to the tutorial, we can't quite fly directly to the Farron pillar, so we're going to have to dive, and then just kind of be chilling here for a little bit. And so I should probably, as a little bit of downtime, I'm going to kind of talk about what I'm doing here. So we entered the Farron area, and so ideally we want to try and beat the first dungeon. And the best way to get into the first dungeon is to warp into it. And we can actually access the first dungeon in back in time. So essentially, it's going to do a reverse bit warp into it. So sounds fancy, but as you'll see, we're just going to start our file and enter the dungeon, and then we will be in the dungeon. So gonna, and once again, one thing I will say is, remember all the weird stuff that we did previously, like talking to Fledge or something? Again, not required to be the game, but talking to him was the reason that log was down. So again, it was setting scene flags that were quite applicable here. This log is a little bit more annoying, so we have to like manually push it. And notice here, I'm entering certain areas with specific files, like file 1 here. That's just to load them in with specific scene flags that won't crash the game, or that will actually make things, possible. Although, however, one thing that's a bit annoying is not everything is loaded, i.e. we can't get into the deep woods section yet. So we're going to have to do a little bit more, like, reloading this area. And how do we do that, you ask? Well, it's the solution to all our problems in this game, which is killing ourselves yet again, inside back in time this time. So I'm just going to go ahead and not start the file, save the file here. Starting the file would be really bad because I have to do all this again, which I'd rather not. Bit save file 1 here, which will kind of set a reset point, or just set a kind of save location with file 1. File 2 because the log's down, and then now we need this octoc here while selecting file 1 to die. This, and then just press the plus. This like copy menu is not necessarily like required for anything. It's more just to make selecting continue here easier, because now I have like complete freedom over what I do with the nunchuck. So continue there, and by reloading here, we are just kind of a lot more things are loaded, i.e. some vines that we'll be able to climb onto to get into deep woods. So yeah, we're just going to be kind of making our way through into Farron, and if by doing this, you'll notice that we actually skip quite a lot of things. We're skipping getting the slingshots, and I believe a few other also, yeah, we won't at all have the tunic at all. We skipped that when we skipped a lot of Skyward stuff. Nice one, missed that. And yeah, the any % for this game skips quite a few things, and there's a few alternate strats that we do because of that, which I'll get into later. So a little bit of concentration here, because if the thing with this game is nothing is difficult, but if I like if I stop paying attention for a little bit, things can go downhill very quickly. So it's important that I do pay attention. So like, if I do stop talking for a little bit, then that's probably why. I just need to like pay attention to what I'm doing a little bit. So again, open the dungeon, start the file, and then because the coordinates were quite convenient, we are now into the first dungeon, the Skyview Temple. We're quite far into it actually, which is incredibly convenient. So a lot of the early stuff that would otherwise require items, we can just skip. So we do have lower health here, which is optimal, but about that I'm going to have to be a little bit careful. Because dying here would actually reset me back to Skyward, which means I'd have to do all of that back in time stuff again, which would be horrendous. So again, being mightily careful here. Now you might have noticed the room previously was not loaded. So basically what we're going to do is we're basically going to go into this room, kill this soldier, and then the rest of this room will be loaded. Annoyingly, there is a few more enemies in here, most notably this spider, but with a well-timed jump here, I can get past it. That green goblin's a little bit scary, because if he hits you, it's quite bad, but it should be fine. So yeah, once you get past the spider, there isn't really any major... I'm going to jinx myself, but there isn't really any major... My dude, please die. No, don't you dare. Don't you hit me. Don't you hit me as I'm about to say there's no real danger of dying. Don't you dare. So yeah, so at this point now we're basically safe. We're saving here just to get our save point here. So if we do die, worst comes to the worst, we just spawn right out here, which is basically fine. So from here, we're going to be doing... the rest of Skyview, I would say normally, but again, we're missing a few items. We're missing the slingshot, we're missing the beetle. Items that we would normally have at this point. So we're going to be doing a few things here, like cutting down these vines with the Skyward Strike. I did mention that we're playing on Hero Mode. A lot of the things in this game, or this route in particular, is only possible on Hero Mode. Number one being, on Hero Mode, you get a longer Skyward Strike distance. So you can try this in normal mode, but it is impossible to cut down the second one with the normal mode Skyward Strike. So anyway, we're going to go here and get our boss key. Looks like a H, which is kind of funny. Boss keys work slightly differently in this game into past Zeldas. They're kind of a puzzle in themselves, because you know, Wii motion controls. So as you see here, this is fairly straightforward. It's a H, orientate it correctly, and then slide it in, and then H. So yeah, so now we'll be entering the first fight of the game, which will be the first iteration of the Girahim fight. We will see Girahim later. This is like the boss of this dungeon is the first iteration of Girahim. So gonna skip the cutscene. And this fight's a little bit RNG, especially the second phase. The first phase is pretty fine. So basically, hold the sword out and just kind of do a bunch of spin attacks. It's not the hardest thing in the world, although I have messed it up. And there we are. And so now Girahim will have. Bring out the sword, and so now phase 2 happens. You can try and get a quick attack on him. Nice, got the quick attack. And then, okay, he's going to charge at me. So he can do one of 3 things. He can either charge at me, he can do that, or he can throw darts at me. Darts you want the least of, because you can't really do damage to him when he does darts. That was perfect RNG. That was a quick attack and 0 darts. I've only seen, in like the years I've been playing this game, I've only ever seen that like once or twice. I get that in a marathon run. That's hilarious. Normally when I'm on PB attempts, I'll get like 3 or 4 darts and I'll be like, God damn it, and then the run will die. But no, there we are. So yeah. Anyway, so now we didn't quite kill him. He just kind of left. You know, he'll be back though, so don't worry. And so. In this run, we're actually going to skip a few Hakatanas. Number 1, because we will always be at low health. But number 2, this file, everything I'm doing here, file 3 I'm on, remember, is not the file that we beat the game on. We beat the game on file 1, so there will be a bit of a changeover of scene flags and stuff later down the line. But yeah. So now we're in the Skyview Spring. And now we hit the crest with the Skyward Strike, do a backflip for cool points, and then boom, that is the first dungeon of the game. So, yeah, so I'm just as we're kind of getting a little bit more downtime, I'm going to kind of talk about the structure of the speed run in general. So, it has kind of like 4 structures. There's the tutorial part, which is Skyloft. There's the Farron region, which includes the Skyview Temple, the Elden region, which includes the Earth Temple, and also there's a bunch of stuff in the Lanayru Desert, and that's where all the funky stuff happens. Then we can just kind of teleport to the end of the game virtually. The reason for all this is that there's a boss rush minigame in the Lanayru Desert, in the Lanayru Gorge more specifically. In order to get to the Lanayru Desert, we need to beat the Earth Temple to give us the Amber Tablet. In order to get into the Earth Temple, we need to beat the Skyview Temple in order to get the Ruby Tablet. So this, we're effectively beating the first 2 dungeons just to kind of gain access to the areas that we want. So now I've beaten the dungeon as well. I'm just going to go ahead and kill myself and then do a bunch of other stuff here. So there's a lot of stuff that we didn't quite do on Skyloft. So Skyloft is a little bit broken right now, and so a lot of the stuff I'm going to be doing now will be on Back in Time. I'll be placing the Ruby Tablets. I'll be placing the Ruby Tablet on just normal file 3, but I'll be entering the Goddess statue in Back in Time, and then we're going to be actually diving into the Elden region in Back in Time as well. So going to bonk into file 3 here, which, as you remember from last time, opened up the gates. I don't know, it's magic, bit magic. There we go. That's where the name came from. And you know, file 3 will close it. Fun fact, if you just open up the file select menu, the game will naturally read from file 3. Why does it do that? I don't know, it just does. And so it's kind of useful to understand that when you're trying to do some menuing shenanigans. So we're going to start file 3, enter the loading zone, and then we did, similar to what we did with Skyview Temple, we kind of did a reverse bit warp into the Goddess statue, and so now we can place the Ruby Tablet here. And we want to do this on the file itself and not back in time for several reasons. Number 1, we want to try and get the hero's tunic. I can't exactly remember the exact reasons behind why we want to do this, but just know that it's quite useful to get certain scene flags onto this file so maybe we can use them later on. And so, yeah. So again, right now, Ruby Tablet, the Elden region is open. And we're going to skip this kind of broken cutscene, because technically this is the first time we've actually placed a tablet, because the first time we did was in Back in Time. So the game doesn't really know what we're doing right now. So the game kind of assumes that we're at the start of the game, because again, Skylift is very broken. But, you know, and because we're at the start of the game will, or because the game thinks that we're at the start of the game, it'll go, hey, let's give him the hero's tunic. So now, file 3 is Green Link. The other files are still Pajama Link, but, you know, we'll actually be finishing the run in Link's pajamas, so, you know, it's pretty cool. We'll be playing, like, the midsection, the middle of the run with the hero's tunic, so you get a bit of a mix, you know. So, you know, once again, dead, more Back in Time. Press continue on the thing, and then reset the console, and then we are back here. So now the goal of this next iteration of Back in Time is to go into Elden. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select file 1 here. I can't remember the exact reason behind why. There's a lot of things in this game where I don't really know why we do it. We just do, and I know it's important. So yeah, select file 1. Probably scene flag shenanigans. Bit save file 2. Bit saving file 2 will actually give us the Loftwing in Back in Time, so then we can leave Skyloft and head somewhere else. So select file 2 just quickly before the game transitions, so the game doesn't crash, and then flap a few times, and then head into Farron. But wait, I said that we were going to Elden. That's right, we are going to Elden. We're just having a quick pit stop into Farron. So when we're going into, essentially what we're going to do in Elden is we're going to do another reverse bit warp here. We're going to Farron here specifically to get some useful coordinates that will allow us to spawn out of bounds and completely skip the Elden region entirely. So select file 2 here to put the next put the sealed grounds into a good layer that we like. So now we're here. Now file 3 will actually set this log down by opening it. So I'm just going to open the fast select menu, and Bit will read stuff from file 3, and then here we are. Select file 1. Again, start on the file just to have a small optimization with the loading zones. And then here. So now this is the statue that we wanted, so I'm going to save here file 3, just get the coordinates there. And that's what we really wanted to do here. So basically now we're going to go ahead and select file 2, and then head to the sky. Selecting file 2 earlier is not really important. As long as we have file 2 selected by the time the game loads, everything should be fine. Once again, start the file there. And then we are back into the sky. Still into like the tutorial area. But luckily for us here, the Elden region is actually in bounds of the tutorial. So we can just go ahead and fly to it. We are going to dive off a little bit beforehand just to gain a little bit of speed from this zipper here. Because any randomizer player will realize just how slow the Loftwing is. I say that because in the randomizer version, the Loftwing is increased. And I will say, changing between the two is utter torture. Because, you know, you go back to like the base game, and then you start to play it, and you're like, dang, this Loftwing is incredibly slow. But, you know, we will go here into the zipper, and then we will gain a bunch of speed, and then fly into a random part of the map, which just so happens to be where the Rupee tablet is, and start file 3. And then, as I said, we saved at the statue here, so we all spawn quite far out of bounds here. So here we are, Elden. And so, you know, this is Breath of the Wild. Before it was Breath of the Wild, you know, some nice open world stuff. You very rarely see a bunch of open world stuff in Skyward Sword because it's very, it's very kind of a very linear game. So, you know, it's kind of how we found this. Anyway, so, you know, a little bit of stamina management. We're not supposed to be here, funnily enough. So, basically, a bit of the movement here is a little bit jank, and there's a small possibility that I might die here, which would be quite bad. So we're going to be running up here in a very particular way, in a way that we maintain stamina and that we actually make it up this sort of like jank collision here. A little bit of kind of stutter sprinting here, which is kind of very like tapping the A button over and over again. Stutter sprinting will be used later on, but just to kind of conserve stamina as I'm running up these slopes here. Right, so then I'm going to go ahead and run up here. Again, kind of just conserving my stamina. We have a jump here. That's good, didn't take any damage. Here, I do want to take a bit of damage here. because I want to be at low health as always. And we are right at the we're right at the entrance of the Earth Temple. We've pretty much skipped most of Elden. It's locked, but you know, we're just gonna go back in time into. We're just gonna go ahead and do an iteration of back in time to get into the dungeon, because back in time solves all our problems these days. So once again, die. Dying by lava is the quickest way because it's pretty fast animation. Continue and reset the console. And then we are going to go ahead and do another iteration of reverse bit magic. This time we're actually going to go and change this area to nighttime. And we're going to go ahead and push a gravestone. And doing that actually will... Now this is kind of a weird iteration of back in time, because why would pushing a gravestone correspond with the Earth Temple opening? How this game kind of works is it has like different scene flags, right? And those scene flags have the same name, but there's a different scene flag table for every single area. So Skyward has its own scene flag table, Elden does, Farron does. And on the table, opening the gravestone, pushing the gravestone, corresponds, is like in the same place as on the table in as in opening the Earth Temple in Elden. So by activating this specific scene flag and starting the file, what we're doing here is we're saying set this scene flag in Elden, because remember file 3 is saved in Elden. So save, start the file, and then camera pans, scene flag is set, and then this will just kind of open. And now we skip the cutscene, and now we're in Earth Temple. Okay, Earth Temple. This is the most annoying part of the run. This is where most runs die. It has a lot of hard tricks, and we are jumping straight into the hard tricks with the first trick called Keese Yeet. I mean, not you, it's the other one, but you know. So, yeah, that guy did bring us down a little bit of health, which is annoying. But anyway, so now... I don't know why I'm doing it in this order, but hey. So now we're just going to go ahead and cut some... of these here. So normally the game we'd have the beetle at this point, but we skipped that, so we're gonna have to instead use this keys and a precise Skyward strike here. I'm gonna be very quiet so I can focus here. It's quite challenging. Nope, he's too high. He almost killed me as well. That would have been tragic. It's a bit of RNG as well. It's nice, got it. Yeah. If anyone's familiar with Sword and Shield skip in Twilight Princess, it's somewhat similar to that. It is slightly easier, but I mean, you know, sometimes that keys can just give you rotten RNG and can just ruin your day, and failing it is equally as bad in TP, as it loses you quite a bit of time here. You know what, I'm just gonna deal with you, because you can be quite annoying. I'm on low health, so I'm gonna be doing a little bit of safety strats here. But in any case. So yeah, we're just going to go ahead and ignore that guy, and then we are going to move along here. So normally at this point in the game we'd have a bunch of items, and at this point in the game normally at this point we want to have the bomb bag, which allows us to break walls and traverse into areas. But because we never picked up the slingshot, we can't actually get the bomb bag or any other items on like the B wheel. So even though the bomb bag is actually right to the right of us, we're unfortunately gonna have to skip it. But again, we can just do some more back in time stuff, and then we're all good. I'm being quite careful here. I am selecting kind of this Wii Motion Plus menu here. We don't want to watch the tutorial because that would be really boring, and you know we're trying to be speedrunners here. I think I already know how to use the Wii Motion Plus, I'd hope. But I am just selecting this here because we don't want to leave this sort of splash screen here. Because leaving the splash screen will actually set a bunch of scene flags that we would rather not. We want all the scene flags to basically just be at their default or 0. And whilst we do that entering into this area is going to kind of... this is going to be very similar to the area... Or this area is in the state of where it would be at the start of the game. So Pipit's over here. So then we start our file and then close the text box, and that sets the scene flag that corresponds in Earth Temple to this bridge being raised. So we're going to kind of roll into here. This cutscene will play as if something's happened. Nothing's happened yet. We do still need to reload the area, so we're just going to kill ourselves, and then the area will then be reloaded. So game over. Continue. One thing that's kind of annoying is because you see the game over screen quite often, it's very tempting to go, I forget what you're doing, and go, I will activate back in time now. But because back in time resets your console, you'll only really go back as far as you saved, and so you can go, damn, I missed, like... Or you can lose a lot of time just by muscle memorying into back in time. You're like, oh, I have to do this, this, and this again. It can be quite annoying. So, you know, we're just kind of making our way up here. I mentioned stutter sprinting before. We're going to be doing stutter sprinting again here. So in the last one, there was kind of like a place there we could just like hang out and recharge the stamina. Here, this next slope does have that place, but it's blocked off by rocks, as you can see here. So the game would normally want us to like blow all that off. But no problem, we can just kind of gently mash the A button, and we can preserve our stamina enough to get all the way up here. So it's no big deal. So now, this is a dragon spewing out lava, and so, you know, and you will notice that there is a boss key there as well. So, conveniently the boss, that was the boss door. The boss key itself is right here, so we're just going to go ahead and pick it up, and we're going to go ahead and beat the second boss. But before that, we're going to do Indiana Jones style, running down here. Because believe it or not, a boulder's going to start chasing us, so we're going to have to run away from it. Or I guess rolling away from it, because there's like a bunch of stamina fruit, so you know, we do be on a roll right now. So there we are. Right, so that stops all the lava, so then we can kind of go through it. Just before this boss fight, I will do a safety save here. This is a marathon safety strat. Because this boss fight is relatively difficult, it's very easy to lose time, and it's also pretty easy to soft lock yourself here. Because remember, at this point, we should have the bomb bag, but we just don't. There is still a way of beating Skyward, the second boss, without the bomb bag, but it's a little bit tricky. So we're going to insert the boss key here. A lot of people say this looks like a D. I kind of see it with like the sort of like, you know, this thing. And it's got like a tiny little like flick up. That's more like an O, if anything. You know, for it to be a D, it'd have to be a little bit more of a sort of what's it called? Like the flick up would need to be a little bit higher. But yeah, there's a kind of a common thing in Skyward sort of where we try to pick apart certain like letters from boss keys. So like Skyview was like the H. This is like the D. Fire Sanctuary, which is a dungeon we don't see, is apparently a Q, which I can kind of see as well. Anyway, so you remember that boulder that was chasing us? Yeah, well, it's back. You know, it's just kind of chilling. And believe it or not, that is the actual boss of the fight. You know, everything's being hyped up for it to be a dragon, but nah, it's just a flaming meatball that we're gonna have to kill. So you know, it's slightly disappointing in a way, but you know, it's all good. But again, as I said, I do not have the bomb bag. I don't have many items, so I'm going to have to. I'm gonna have to essentially kill him, and without the bomb bag. And there are a few bomb flowers at the like right at the top, and we can actually use that to our advantage, and just barely have the ability to reach Skyward when he's like halfway up. So. Give him his back. He likes to talk a little bit, so just, you know, let him talk a little bit, you know. Thankfully in Japanese, so he's fairly quick. Skip the cutscene. Now we're in the Bomb Flower Skyward fight. This can be quite tricky, so commentary might be a little bit sparse here. I do apologize, but I do want to try and hit this as efficiently as possible. Ideally, I'd rather not soft lock here, so... excuse me. So, again... using the Bomb Flowers up here, and I'm going to do a very specific amount of damage here, so that because Skyward will inevitably roll to the bottom, but if I do a specific amount of damage, I will be able to... That was a concerning amount of damage. Yeah, I should be able to... yeah, sorry, commentary's going to be a bit sparse here because I'm going a little bit try-hard mode. He just went past that a little bit. Yeah, that initial damage was a little bit concerning. Well past him. Yeah, he has to be down here, so we have to try and hit him with a Skyward Strike. This could be quite finicky. Okay, I just missed it. That's fine. I now pray that I can hit him with a Skyward Strike a second time, because if I can't, we would be soft locked out of this fight. Nice. Okay, good. Yeah. Apologies for the kind of lack of commentary there. This is a pretty stressful fight. Failing it can lose a lot of time. But yeah, essentially we used the bomb flowers at the start there to kind of initially get him down. And in like the second kind of phase of the fight, Skaldera rolls all the way down. And so ordinarily you can't actually reach, the bombs can't reach all the way down. So instead we have to hit him with a relatively precise Skyward Strike. And that Skyward Strike only works if you do a certain amount of damage, which we conveniently did. So thankfully no soft locks here, and we are leaving Earth Temple. This is a pretty good Earth Temple, I will admit. So anyway. So this door is kind of on a cycle here, so I could just like chill for like the next like 4 seconds and wait for opening it, still make the cycle. So anyway, so then we are going to go ahead and once again beat the Earth Temple, and there's a little bit more downtime in between regions, so if you have any donations or anything you want to say, you can go for it.
I would like to remind people that we are just $100 away from making Green 2023 the 4th largest UKSG ever. And that will bring us to over $3,180. We are also chasing our Red 2023 total, which was $4,415.90. So we are about $1,300 away from that. So every single dollar counts when it's going towards Crisis. Crisis helps people out of homelessness through support, through job placements, and through housing. So 90% of the donations that come in will be going directly to Crisis, and 10% to help support UKSG running future events like this. Thank you, Kip.
Awesome, yeah, thank you. So we're going to go back into Earth Temple and save. We'll do that instead, is because Earth Temple has quite a good amount of scene flags here that we're going to take advantage of. So right now we did get the Amber Tablet as well, so now we have access to the Lanayru region. Unlike the Ruby Tablet, we're actually going to be setting this into Back in Time, because this is the point where we want to transfer from File 3 to File 1. So we're going to have to get the Amber Tablet into Back in Time. And how we do that is we're going to bonk into this tree here, and then we're going to select this rupee here with File 3. Ideally do a jump slash to skip that cutscene, but oh well. And by doing that, we, by clicking that rupee with File 3 enabled, we were able to, we were able to put a bunch of File 3's stuff into Back in Time. Not all of it, but we were able to put stuff like the Amber Tablet in and stuff like that. So now we are going to go ahead and kind of open File 1 here. We're going to enter into this statue with File 1, just because a lot of stuff... File 1 is still really early in the game, remember? It's still like the old File 3 that we had from ages ago. So as far as story progression goes, it hasn't done a lot. So we're placing an invisible tablet here, because, again, it's just like... File 1 is just really early on. So once again, we are going to go ahead and... similar to the first back in time we did, we're going to go ahead and have File 1 here, and then we're going to be starting our file at a very specific point, this point. It helps also entering into this cutscene with File 1, because that actually sets things from day to night, which actually gives you quite a good visual cue on where to press the button. But yeah, so now, again, we're in Farron here, because ages ago we did a back in time save, and File 1 is now in Farron. So now we're going to leave Farron, and we're going to use this file to go to Lanayru. And also, yes, Link is back in his pajamas, because if you remember correctly, that all that hero's tunic was on File 3. So the rest of the run will be in pajama mode. So that's cool. So Fi tells us about something that we're really not interested in. I have no idea what she even says here. And so yeah, this is like the only real flying segment in the game. It's not a huge segment, but again, this is why we want to have the Loftwinger, so that we can have, well, number one, so we can do all the stuff in Back in Time we do, and two, also this, so we don't get what's it called? That's a word for it. So that, you know, we don't get like trapped in like one region, so we can safely go to the Lanayru region here. Alright, so here we are, the Lanayru Desert. Lanayru in this game is quite different from other Zelda games. In the past, Lanayru has always been the region of water, and the region of kind of like the ocean. Skyward took a little bit of a different approach there, and Lanayru is kind of like the region of like, I don't know, desert. It's also like just like general electricity. because it's now in this region there's like a parson like present, and it's pretty cool. But you know, we don't really care about that because all we really care about right now is just getting to the Lanayru Gorge and busting this game wide open. So effectively what we're going to be doing, we're going to kill ourselves once again, and we're going to do an iteration of Back in Time once again. This one is a little bit more simple than the other ones. So continue and reset the console. And then we're just going to be a simple Back in Time save, although this is going to be quite different from a Back in Time save. It's actually a Back in Time warp. So instead we're going to be selecting file 1 and save, or we can start file 1 and save at the statue at the exact same time. And by doing that, what we will be doing is saving just the coordinates, but still saving the map location on file 1. Or the file location of file 1 will be still in the Lanayru Mines. And so start the file and save. I like to start the file before just because I think it makes things slightly quicker, although if it is quite difficult and you can sometimes get like in a bit of a pickle and then you can mess up the whole thing. So if you're playing this like say at home for example and you just want to go safe, you can just start them both at the same time. This works. This is the same effect. So this will spawn us way out of bounds here. And for some reason there's collision here. No one really knows why. There just is collision here. But no, it's pretty useful. I will take this collision gladly. And we will be doing this to access the Lanayru Caves, which is not a region we're supposed to be able to open until like the midsection of the game. You know, like hours and hours into a playthrough. But you know, here we're just coming up on 50 minutes. You know, we're speedrunners who like to do everything efficiently and quickly and skip a bunch of stuff. At least in the case of any percent. So that's what we are going to be doing. So a little bit more running to go. Just run up here a little bit. And yeah, this is a lot of like these like long stretches of runs. I'm only filling up to a quarter because a quarter of the stamina, last quarter of stamina will deplete twice as slowly as the rest. So it makes more sense to do that instead of making it go all the way up to the top. So anyway, here we are. We're in the Lanayru Caves, and because we're here really early, there isn't any rocks here, so we can just kind of go straight into the Lanayru Gorge, and this is a region that we shouldn't be here until way later in the game. So here we are, and now this is where we do a bunch of Back in Time in order to get to the boss rush minigame early. Now the boss rush minigame in hero mode, again a lot of this is only impossible in hero mode, we have access to the end game bosses like Girahim and Demise and stuff like that. In the third iteration of the Girahim fight, we can do a bunch of funky stuff which allows us to warp into the real fight itself instead of just playing a like boss minigame version of it. And that's kind of the whole reason why this works in the first place. So in any case, we're going to be doing a kind of relatively standard iteration of Farron bit. Same thing here previously of saving file 2 here to access the loft wing in Back in Time. And then we're going to be jumping off Skyloft and then calling a bird and then going back into Farron. Being very careful not to run out of stamina entirely there because Link can't jump off of platforms when he's out of stamina. He just kind of falls and it's very annoying. So again, just like file 1 here because it's more convenient to do so. It's very important that I had file 1 selected there, because if I enter the pillar with say file 3 selected, the game will try and bring up the map and the game will crash. I've been mentioning this a lot where Back in Time crashes. It does really crash quite significantly if you have like the wrong file selected, or just like enter a region with certain scene flags. It's just because, I mean, yeah, believe it or not, we're not supposed to be able to do this, and so the game, like, you know, Nintendo didn't really think to patch out a lot of this stuff. So there's a lot of stuff here. It's the whole reason why a lot of this, none of this is difficult, but it's all, I have to pay attention to a lot what I'm doing. Like, I have to pay attention to the fact that I have to select file 3 here. So file 3 will make this Goron appear, and then hello. Oh, there we go. So yeah, we want the cutscene here. So then we're going to go ahead and start with file 1. And then we're going to commit that to memory by setting a random other scene flag like that. The boulder did not break up. I hate that boulder. It only breaks up half the time. Why are you not breaking this? It'll happen eventually. There we go. So now, because we did that stuff back in time, that boulder in the distance over there also broke. Again, the cutscene, that cutscene corresponds to the to that breaking as well. So anyway, we're going to be back here and dying once again because we're not done. So once again, do that. So now, in order for the boss rush minigame to be possible, we need to set the region to the past. Right now it's in the present, it's all deserty, but we need it to be, you know, in the past. And normally you do that by a minecart escort, but one, we're not in the right place of the game. And also number two, we are missing a ton of items in order to do that. However, with a bunch of back-in-time stuff, we're able to kind of bypass a lot of that. That first one there, with blowing up the boulder, was just to bypass the requirement of the bomb bag there, so we can finish the last part of the minecart escort without a hitch. But we're also going to be doing this iteration of back-in-time in order to actually get the minecart towards the end, because we're not going to do the whole thing. That would take too long, and it's quite frankly impossible. So what we're instead going to do is we're instead going to get the minecart at the end of the escort, and we're just going to kind of join it there with a bunch of other back-in-time stuff that I'll show later on. So once again, another iteration of Farron back in time, so that means more diving, more skydiving, woohoo. So once again, entering here with file 3. Or entering the pillar with file 1, then selecting file 3, so the sealed ground is in a good good region. Again, not selecting file 3 too early, otherwise the game would crash. Okay, so then select file 3 there to open up to down the log, and then select file 2 here to make sure the Goron isn't here, because the Goron was here in file 3, so he's not here in file 2, which is pretty good, so we can just walk right past it. So then, also, strangely, file 3 has correct properties for this log to now to be here. Don't know why. It is saving the Earth Temple, so it's something to do with that probably. And so again, going to select file 2 here, because we want Machi, the Kitcot, to be spawned here, and he's going to be quite useful for this iteration of Back in Time. So we're going to make our way a little bit towards Machi's location, and he is right here, being tormented by a bunch of goblins here. No worries, we can just kind of kill him. So again, another. Hi, guy, please, like that. And okay, this not playing nice. I see how it is. Yeah. Oh, come on. This is being annoying. Yeah, another good thing about hero mode is the extended Skyward strike. So we should be able to kill these in one fell swoop. It didn't quite happen this time, but oh well. So yeah, just start the file and then talk to Machi there. That will set a temporary flag, which is different from a scene flag. And so I'll set that flag, and I have to commit it by bonking into this. Woo, green rupee. Not going to pick it up though, because we're fine. Just having 0 rupees. But yeah, temporary flag. So temporary flags are very similar to scene flags, although they're slightly different in the sense that if I reloaded the area, or I don't know if I... Okay, if I died, then the temporary flag would be, well, temporary, so it would just go being back here. So it's very important that I don't die here. Okay, I'm saying that as I die, but here's the thing. I'm going to reset the console, and so because I saved before I died, the temporary flag will still be set, if that made any sense. So it's important that I don't just die and, like, not do back in time, you know? So, you know, we're back now again. And so the minecart is now at the end of its escort, and so now we are going to have to go ahead and kind of join with it there. We're going to do this by doing another iteration of Back in Time here. We're going to be doing another bit warp similar to the one we did earlier on in Linearu. So yeah, just jump over that fence. We're having to jump over the fence because none of these files have the correct scene flags for that gate to open. Okay, good. So yeah, start the file, save there. And then once again, we'll be spawned way out of bounds. Anyway, So a bit more running here. And yeah, again, there's just some nice little collision here that we can just kind of run past. This collision, however, will end quite abruptly, annoyingly, right at the top here. But that's okay, because we can do a little bit of a kind of jank jump to get past it, right? And so a little bit more running. And kind of at like the end of this kind of plane here, like just to the left of me, there is no collision evidented by the fact that I will fall through the floor right there. And so basically, with a little bit of a setup and some stuff, I should be able to... Okay, that's normal. I should be able to, after Link kind of sorts himself out, I should be able to, in theory, just jump up here. Like that, nice. And just kind of bypass all of the... all of the lack of the collision there. So, anyway. This will be kind of making our way over back to the, or not really back anyway, we're going to this for the first time, just heading over to the end of the minecart escort. Dropping down here quite carefully because, again, dying here would mean that the temporary flag would be reset, which would be very bad. A few brake slides here of just kind of, just holding the ESS down on the controller and stuff like that, and now we are, yeah, the minecart is here. And so now, a bit like the last auto-scroller, there's nothing for us to do because we already blew that up. And so a bit of like an auto-scroller for about a minute. So if you have any quick donations, then now would be a good time to read them.
Oh, I'd love if I had donations, but nothing to read right now, apart from to remind people that we are raising money for Crisis, a charity that aims to help people out of homelessness through whatever means they possibly can, through education, through training, and support with housing and employment and health. 90% of all donations go directly to Crisis to support them in their work, and 10% of donations go towards UKSG's future events.
Awesome, yeah. So, you know, just a little bit of downtime here. We're just kind of waiting for this really slow minecart to catch up a bit. You know, I'm just kind of shuffling a little bit by doing a little bit more brake sliding and stuff like that. Again, it's just a bit of a movement tech that is kind of not really seen a lot in real-time attack runs. Is more TAS, because it's quite difficult, but, you know, I'm bored, so I'm just doing a little bit anyway. Anyway, so, whilst you're waiting for this minecart, we're actually going to heal up slightly, because you want to be at a little bit more than 2 hearts. This is very laggy. And so, be at like 2 and a bit hearts, and so, now the minecart is in place, but we need to actually make the Thunder Dragon appear, because the Thunder Dragon is... I forgot to damage down a bit more, oh well. The Thunder Dragon is what makes the... Like, he's the guy who runs the boss rush minigame anyway, so he kind of needs to be alive and well for this to work. So I'll do one more iteration of Back in Time, and one thing I will say, it looks like I'll be underestimated by about 10 minutes here. So just going to keep that in mind, because a lot of things have been going quite well so far. I might jinx myself here.
Yeah, don't say that. That's how you jinx yourself right there.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I might end up messing up the end of the game because it can be quite challenging. But
we believe in you.
Thank you. Again, just a forewarning. If everything does go to plan, I will be finishing somewhat soon. So, yeah, this will be the final iteration of Back in Time. So if your head's still bleeding, then you know, fear not. This will be the end of it. So you know, this one's a pretty standard fare in Back in Time start file to make the Loftwing appear in Back in Time, so we can leave Skyloft. Because this is another iteration of Farron bit. Once again, select file 2, so the game doesn't crash. Then flab a few times, dive off our Loftwing, and then select file 1 again, so the game doesn't crash later on. And yeah, now we're diving. So here, we want to try and activate a very specific scene flag, which is quite late into Farron. It's actually opening the Skyview Temple. We want to do that again in Back in Time and apply it to file 1. And by doing that, it'll set the scene flag of 2x20, which is the same scene flag, which tells us that the Song of the Hero quest in Lineru is complete, and the Thunder Dragon normally, like, you know, is alive when that quest is complete, and it's quite at the end of the game, so we're skipping around a bit. But basically, by the scene flag of that quest being complete, the Thunder Dragon will just kind of be chilling. So then we can activate the minigame. So I'm gonna select file 1 here. Be a little bit more kind of careful over what files I'm selecting, because again, if I selected file 3, For example, the Goron would be here and he'd kind of stop me in his tracks, and then I have to do the whole thing again. So again, not necessarily a difficult sequence, just a sequence I have to pay a little bit more attention to. Alright, so now we're just going to kind of file 3, and then that log will just be appeared, which is actually quite handy. So we can go up here, and similar to the Skyview reverse bit warp that we did ages ago, we're going to actually die here just to reload the game. Again, because we are going to the Skyview Temple, we want the vine to be down so we can access the deep woods, and so this is the whole reason why we're dying, just to kind of reload the room a little bit. So again, just press the plus button so it gives me a little bit more control over the joystick. So then kind of get past the lag a little bit there. Well, not really get past it, just kind of more endure it rather. And then, so the vine should be down, so we should be able to just quite nicely make our way through into the deep woods. And then, once I'm there, I'll be a little bit more careful with my files because everything, because you know, Link kind of goes warping around. He'll kind of warp in front of the Skyview Temple, and it's very important that very specific files are selected at that point. Because again, if I still have the wrong file selected at a certain point, things can go pear-shaped pretty quickly. So enter with file 2. Select file 1 as the cutscene is playing. Then skip the cutscene, and then as Link walks through here, I'm going to start the file, and that will activate the correct scene flag that I want 2x20 as the cutscene shifts. If I've done this correctly, Phi will now pop up and say, yep, and Phi will now say, yo, I did the Song of the Hero quest. So that's pretty cool. So now, once we transition this back into the past, the Thunder Dragon is now alive and well. So that means we are going to access the boss rush minigame. So this is kind of the whole kind of purpose of the route here. We are now going to be into the boss rush minigame. And as I said, we're in hero mode, so we are able to access all the later games, like the third iteration of the Girahim fight. And that's important, because if we can go out of bounds in that fight, we can access the bird statue that we're not supposed to. And by reloading at that bird statue, we will actually spawn into the real fight and be at the end of the game. So I'm going to select top left, which is the option for the third iteration of the Girahim fight. Thunderang will do a little bit more of his talking, because, you know, my dude likes to do that. And then, well, I will be attempting the last trick of the game called, well, I guess last trick of the game, called Girahim 3 Escape. It can be a little bit finicky, and failing it can be quite bad, so I will try not to do that. So first thing first, knock Girahim off here, and then I'm going to kind of just hang here for a little bit. You know, I've been playing for about an hour, just over an hour straight, so you know, need a bit of a break, you know. So wait for Girahim to now get up, and then count to 4. Once he does that, 2, 3, 4, drop down, and then hit him off once again. And we're trying to get this platform in a very specific spot, because pretty much right beneath him is where the bird statue is, but again, it's out of bounds. So we're going to try and essentially get his platform in a good place, and then kind of use that platform to jump out of bounds once again. So wait for him to wake up. Wake up, 2, 3, 4. I'll come off a bit there. So now this will be the last one here. Again, we're going to hang a little bit here. So wait for him, and I'm going to do something a little bit different here. I'm not just going to drop up after 4. I'm going to count to 3 and then go up and then backflip. That'll put me in a very good position to get this to work. 2, 3, backflip. Front of camera. Okay, that can happen. So normally, if you do that correctly, Girahim will, or you'll have iframes from dropping down. For whatever reason, Girahim decided to attack me a tad bit late once those iframes got removed, and then that happened. So cool, cheers, my guy. But it's okay. So nothing will change. So we can just kind of go ahead and do that again. It's a bit of time loss. I did jinx myself, didn't I? Yeah, it happened. Anyway, so yeah, I'm not entirely sure why that happens. I feel like it has something to do with the time I dropped down, but I feel like I waited long enough. But oh well, the game does what game wants sometimes. Anyway, we have more health, so I guess if that does happen again, it won't be that bad, but it is, the trick itself is quite time sensitive, so I wouldn't say that for certain. Anyway, so now we're just going to be just doing this over again. I'm not really going to be repeating myself, so again, once again, apologies if commentary starts to become a bit sparse. I do want to kind of focus here, because this is another thing that's easy to mess up if I'm not paying attention. 3, 4, drop down, flash him off. He's at a really awkward position. That should be fine. So now wait a little bit here. 2, 3, 4. Why? Why'd you do that? Okay, this should be fine, but that was kind of off-putting, the fact that he did that so early. Girahim's not being nice to me this morning. He really is not. I don't understand it, but, you know. We'll try and make it work. Yeah, this is not going to work. This is cool. We might be here for some time then.
You jinxed yourself. What did I say?
I really did. This run was going so well as well. It was going so well, and then this happened. Awesome. Okay, so we should be coming around, right around our estimate maybe.
This is why we give estimates over PBs.
Yes, because normally my personal best is 110, which would be coming up quite closely actually. And this is a pretty good run. Earth Temple was solid. The Great at the start was a little bit finicky, but other than that, I still hit a lot of things. This was on a pretty good pace, probably like a 111 or 112 pace, and then Girahim right at the end just had to, you know, be pretty annoying. So anyway, you know, as they say, third time's the charm. So yeah, we'll try this one more time. Or not one more time, a few more times. We'll see how long this takes. We'll get through it eventually, I'm sure. Four. This platform is noticeably low. Should be fine. Yeah, it's very annoying because there are like some style differences here, which can be really weird to point out, but sometimes they just happen. 2, 3, 4. Yeah, don't you dare hit me again. Let's wait a little bit more. Come on, Graham. Okay, this looks promising. So then all we have to do is jump down, as I said, and then we're here. Okay, there we are. Okay, I did it. Oh my god. Yeah, yes, I don't know. I don't know. Game is whack sometimes. What can I say? Anyway, so now we essentially we save and quit at that, and then we reload. And for whatever reason, when we reload this from the title screen, the game doesn't expect us to be able to do this, so the game just kind of loads us into the fight, and boom, we are now at the end of the game. So that's pretty cool. We are still out of bounds though, so we're gonna have to now get back in bounds. But you know, Link will just kind of slide on his butt upwards because apparently in that little corner physics doesn't apply. Then I will. Now, okay, now I do actually have to get back out of bounds again. I'll explain why in a bit, but now I just have to kind of hop out with a semi-precise positioning here. Yeah, my positioning's a bit off. There we go. Yeah, so the reason why I had to do all that and not just run to here, because I was already out of bounds earlier, was because there's actually an invisible wall between here and the bird statue, so I had to go back in bounds and then back out of bounds, and it was a whole thing. But you know, now we're good. So now we're just kind of running up here because Girahim's kind of lonely at the top. Remember, they're still in this fight, so we have to get Girahim down here And the way we do this is by activating a void plane that is around here. There we go. So Link will kind of fall through the floor, and then Girahim is equally out of bounds. You know, we're both just chilling out of bounds. So now we both have to now get inbounds, because if we stay out here for too long, or if we try to continue the fight out here for too long, then the game will crash because it doesn't like us being here. So we'll just kind of hit him back inbounds. Girahim's being a little bit fussy about it, but you know, like there, and then he's now back in bounds. So now we just roll up a little bit, and then face a blow onto him, and then we are now going to be back in bounds with him. Thud. Alright, so now this fight is relatively normal. We only have now a side effect of this route here is that we only have the goddess swords, and the goddess sword. And now normally in the game you'd have like the whole true master sword at this point, but you know, we have this, which is basically just like a toothpick. You know, it's very small and does very little damage. And in this game, there are two types of two types of enemies. There's enemies that are kind of done on hit based, and then there's damage based. Girahim is a damage based enemy, and so the Goddess Sword's lack of damage capability will really matter here. So this next fight will take quite a while and is actually quite difficult. But yeah, and just by comparison, the end game demise, which is coming up quite soon, is actually a hit based. So having Goddess Sword actually makes no difference. So we're going to do a few funky strats here to get as much damage in as possible, so that this doesn't take too long. Alright, there's one. I guess one good thing about failing Girahim for the escape is that I do have more health here. Because had I done everything optimally, I'd only have like a tiny bit of health. Okay, missed it slightly there. Those Skyward stabs at the start are a bit finicky. Okay, oops, whatever. Yeah, it can be quite difficult to charge, but you know. And stab him. This will take a little bit longer than intended, but oh well, we're fine. Come on, he's got to be low at some point. Surely. Fine, I'll do a Skyward stab. There we go. Yeah, blow is low. Alright, so second phase. Now the third phase, he has a much bigger sword. So that's cool. This is like going to be easier than the second phase, because you just do a bunch of spin attacks. But once again, we only have the Goddess Sword, so instead of this only taking 2 hits, this will actually take 12, I believe. Or no, 8, sorry. It takes 8 hits. And because it takes so many hits, we have to be a little bit careful about our stamina here and not run out prematurely. Yeah, I believe, as I was saying, this is not a good thing. I believe we're on some of our last hits. Okay, I believe one more. There we are. Okay, so now we're on to the final boss, Demise. Now, the Demise fight is very, very scripted and very choreographed. And it's kind of a tradition when we run Skyward Sword at these events to do this fight blindfolded. So, I have a blindfold here that I will be promptly putting on. And yeah, I will just say now, time begins when we land the final blow on Demise. Blindfold is on. I already can't see. Nice. Cool. So, yeah, so this is the final fight, and time will be as I land the final blow on Demise, if I do this correctly. Good first phase. The spin attack's a little bit rough, but alright. Second phase is a little bit more challenging. There's a bit of a difficult, well-timed backflip stuff to do here, but we'll try and make it work. Okay. And time. Awesome. All right. So, won 17-16. Not horrible, all things considered. The ending kind of fell off a cliff, but otherwise, I'm relatively happy with the general gist of that. So yeah, that was the Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. Quickly before we turn over back to the back to Skimpy, I just want to shout out a few people. Shouts to just the general Skyward Sword and Skyward Sword randomizer community as well. I'm predominantly also a randomizer player of this game. Both communities are pretty awesome, and I highly recommend anyone watching this check them out. Two people in the randomizer community I do just want to shout out specifically, Muzu and Esme. Both initially when I was planning this event, initially the plan was for all three of us to come up here and just kind of hang out. Unfortunately, Muzu and Esme couldn't make it, but I did just want to give them a quick shout out because the amount of work they've been doing in Skyward Sword Randomizer and on the development side has been absolutely out of this world. And, you know, both are just amazing people and amazing friends. So yeah, shout outs to you too. So yeah, that's all I've got left to say. I will hand it back over to Skenme, and then we'll be getting on with the rest of UKSG. So hope you guys enjoy the rest of the marathon.
Thank you very much, Kit. Thank you for the run. A fantastic run, as you say, up until just a little bit of bad luck at the end there. But that's just how it works, unfortunately, sometimes. So, yeah, good. There's GGs and chat and claps coming in chat for you. And a couple of donations came in at the last moment here.
Cool.
We've had a $30 donation come in from Mohican, who says, these events make the world look a bit friendlier. And Mohican, I can only agree with you there. Thank you very much for your $30. That will go to Crisis. And we've had a $50 donation come in from Gopher, who says, good morning. Here's to another day of great runs for a good cause. And that went to the Pizza Tower any % save or kill Snotty, save Snotty. And I'm looking at CD Romatron, who's in the room, who will be running Pizza Tower after our next run. It also went to shaving Ruffled Bricks' head at the end of the marathon. So we are approaching about $250 away from that now. And also naming the Worms 2 All Missions Team Club 601, which I think is currently firmly in the lead. So thank you for your $50 donation, Gopher. Thank you for the run, Kit. We will be moving on now to Hot Wheels World Race Rookie League, being run by Prosec. And we will be back with you after this short intermission.